And one day, the hard reality that cash can actually lose value just hit me. So from there, I understand that, okay, maybe keep everything in cash is not the best choice. And I feel real estate is a business that can fit with the situation I'm in right now.
And when we came to Japan, we fell in love with Japan.
I just want to settle down here. It's a little different feeling than America. Worry about different things in different countries. The cost of living in Japan is...
I recently interviewed 4 foreign investors who are in the process of buying property in Japan. 3 of them are doing it while living abroad. So in this video, these investors will share why they're investing in Japanese real estate now and how they're navigating the process. Whether you want your dream house on the cheap or build a rental portfolio in Japan, you're gonna wanna watch this. Later in this video, we'll go through the properties that I walked through with one of these investors to show you what you can expect from newly renovated houses in an area less than 1 hour from Tokyo. Before we dive into the interviews, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this channel. It really helps the channel grow and I would really appreciate it. Also, if you're interested in how to buy a cheap Akiya in Japan as a foreigner, I have a free step-by-step guide that will help you own your dream second home or first investment property in Japan. Click the link below in the description. All right, let's get started with the interviews.
Okay, well, welcome to Japan.
Thank you.
So you just got to Japan from Singapore,
Correct.
right? My first question will be, so you're planning to invest in Japan, Japanese real estate, and you've been, looking at some properties. You're doing a lot of research, starting your own rental business company, setting up an entity. But tell me, you live in Singapore. Why Japan? Why are you interested in investing in Japan?
Yeah, so first, real estate.
Yeah.
I've never been a guy who's considered real estate a good investment opportunity, actually.
Yeah.
I always thought about just, working hard, saving money. The safest thing I could do was just having cash and put them in a saving account and keep them in the bank. And I work in different countries, so I hold different currencies. And one day, the hard reality that cash can actually lose value just hit me.
Yeah.
That was when Brexit happened. And I had savings in the British pound, and back then was pretty strong and stable, and it suddenly collapsed, and my life expenses became more and more expensive. So from there, I understand that, okay, maybe keep everything in cash is not the best choice. What are the ways I can invest this, my savings? And back then, the situation was different, so I looked into stocks and more high risk, high reward kind of investments. But now I'm in a situation where, I have a family, and I'm looking where to park those savings. And I feel real estate is a business that can fit with the situation I'm in right now. And Japan, because, I have deep roots in Japan already. My wife is Japanese. I've lived in Japan 1 year, but it was back then 8-9 years ago. And I visit many times, so I'm pretty happy and comfortable to move back to Japan and start investing in the real estate business.
Nice. And you're originally from Italy.
Italy, correct.
Right? And you've been in Singapore for how many years?
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you thought about investing in your home country, Italy? Why Japan now? I know you got big roots, but
Yeah, I've looked into different countries, honestly, and if it was many years ago, maybe I would have looked into more upcoming places that might have highest returns. You look at Thailand, you look at Indonesia, you look at Vietnam. I think there are very good opportunities there, but there is also more risk. Why Japan is also because one of the reality in many Western modern countries is that housing is almost becoming like a luxury. For the middle class, the old dream of working hard, saving money and buying the house of your dream is really not achievable anymore. While in Japan, it seems like there are still opportunities for a working family to get a house, to get a nice place to live in good conditions, right? And this is attractive for me both on a personal level, where I can finally live the dream of maybe living in a house, but also on the real estate side, as a landlord in the future, I can provide a nice place to live to new families.
Yeah.
And that's nice to think about that.
Yeah. And so walk me through the process of the current process of getting to your first deal. What have you done so far, and where you're at in the process?
Of course, a lot of research, and that's how I found you, while doing this research into Japanese real estate markets. There is a lot of information around and online. There is also a lot of BS online related to Japanese real estate investing. You can go from one side where people almost saying Japan is giving out free houses to everyone to the other part where people talk about population declining, like Japan is going to be a wasteland in a few years.
Right.
So there is a lot of information, but that's the first thing I did, a lot of research, questioned the research I found, checking in multiple places, starting to have consultations with professionals from Japan to really get a grasp of the situation. And then the two big parts to have a business is, first you have to establish your company, and second you have to open a bank account. Those are the two big things that you have to do. And I've just finished the first process to establish the company. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was quite a long process, but now all the documents are done. It's been submitted, and that part is done. The second step, even the more challenging one, will be the corporate bank account. That's another thing, and I will look at it once I fully move to Japan.
Yeah. Because
now I've been set up the company from overseas, and it was already extremely challenging, let's say. And for the bank account, I know it will be even more challenging. So I want to really be smart and do it here, when I'm here, when I can be here, and I can be available in person and take care of everything in person, rather than doing it from overseas with a lot of additional support needed.
So you're moving to Japan in a few months, right?
Correct.
Like in the spring of 2024. And for sure, that'll make the process a lot easier because you're here and you probably have more access to resources that it's hard to have while living abroad. What are some things that foreigners living outside of Japan who are interested in whether buying a house for their pleasure or starting a rental business need to know?
Actually, getting a house for yourself, I think that's almost a different thing that looking into real estate business. That's easier. That's if you have the cash in hand, that's pretty easy. You contact the right persons. There are a lot of bilingual companies in Japan. Not a lot, but there are enough. They can help you find a place you like, and the process is pretty straightforward. You pay for it, you sign the documents, and you got your place. It might be longer, and there might be more papers and things to pay for in the end than other countries, but that part I think is the most straightforward thing you could do. But setting up your real estate business, then that's where the challenge comes. And even if you speak Japanese, even if you can read Japanese, even if you understand Japanese, you will still need some support from Japan if you're from overseas. The amount of unique regulation, rules, and unfortunately also some kind of outdated systems, it means that you will need some support from here. Consultants, tax experts, and other kind, legal experts. You will need some support, and all those are supports that take time and take money. So you have to be ready for that.
I think that's a great point, like setting expectations, because like when you see headlines like free houses, which by the way, I did use one of those headlines. I'm glad I got your attention first and, explain myself. A lot of people assume that it's so easy and low cost to get into this market, but the reality is, like anything good, it is, if it's that cheap, there's got to be something, and if it's easy to enter, everyone would be entering this market, right? So not just about the language piece, understanding the culture, but also understanding the local real estate market. Those three things are very crucial to be successful here. Yeah.
One point I want to make is, since there are all of those challenges, I think really one of the main points to have here is you need to have the right mentality to work here and to open your business here. if you come with, it's easy to come with a mentality where you start comparing. Oh, but in this country I could open a company with $50. In this country I could pay my taxes in 10 minutes. Then you will get frustrated very early, and you might just spend a lot of money and time for nothing, or you might give up at some point in the process. The big investors are more looking also into new big condos, hotels, or this very, very big establishment. So there is even less competition on smaller places like houses, small apartments. So yeah, that's what keeps me going forward, because what you just said. Yeah.
You're done with setting up an entity, and you're working on opening up your bank account once you make your move here, and then you're gonna look into deals to buy. And I know you've been doing a lot of analysis and research on what areas, and you're running numbers and whatnot. What is the strategy that you're going with?
Yeah, so definitely after the research, I do believe there are opportunities, of course, with single-family house, used one. Also for a cultural reason, after many years, which could be 10, 20 years in Japan, a house is considered almost old. But you can clearly see plenty of houses between 20, 30 years that maybe that were just well taken care of, or maybe they had some renovation. I think not many people here in Japan sees that opportunity. So I think that's definitely a market where there are opportunities. So the single family homes is one. Yeah, there is more. I think apartment, especially small apartments, can be interesting if you have maybe a bit more budget. There are different type of apartments. There are some that try to really maximize the amount of rooms, for example, where they just maybe the apartment doesn't look that big, but it actually had a lot of single 1K rooms for really working people. And those are still pretty popular. It might not be the most exciting thing out there, but it seems like in around big cities, Tokyo and Osaka, Fukuoka, Sapporo, etc., those are still popular. So on an investment standpoint, apartments seems pretty interesting on a cash flow standpoint. Houses sounds more exciting, honestly, because I find it very exciting to think that you can kind of set it up nicely for a family to live in, or for a couple. I like the idea of houses, honestly, and maybe in the future I'll have both. But now, by running numbers, definitely houses and small apartments are on top. And bigger apartments like mansion or new houses and new apartments, at least for me, are kind of out of the deal because of the initial costs that are very high. The returns are not that much higher either, and the extra expenses for the management, and you don't own the land. One of the few things that is appreciating in Japan in nice areas is the land. So I feel it's kind of valuable to also own land. That's why, again, small apartments with land and houses with land.
Nice, I love it. I mean, you know this, but small multifamily was how I got into real estate investing, and I think it's a great way to enter. It's a lot less competition compared to single-family homes, especially in the U.S. But big players wouldn't touch those small multifamilies. So I think it's small investors like us. It's a good way to get into it. And if you set up the system, cash flow is great. So I think that's a great strategy to go with. So I get a lot of questions from my viewers asking like, hey, are houses really free or like dirt cheap in Japan? Like, can you get me one? Like, what? But in your opinion, what is like base amount of capital to get started in real estate investing in Japan? Like, how much do people really need to have?
Yeah, from what I found out, regardless of the research I did, where it says, okay, opening a company is, for example, 200,000 yen. Registering the company is this fee. Doing this other thing is this fee. Regardless of the research you do, there is more to pay. I assure you, there is more to pay. I wouldn't, if you are really tight on budget, I think it might be challenging. Yeah, not just because you will lack the capital to pay for all those things, but I think in Japan there is still this credibility is also important, right? So if you open your business on a super tight budget, because you can even incorporate your company with $10, right? And the day after you go to a bank and you ask for a $10 million loan, you know, the bank is gonna check your files, it's gonna check your documents, it's gonna check your company. Okay, you own a company with a capital of $10, and you could just come here and ask me for a loan of 10 million, which might work for someone, but credibility is very important. What you do, how you set up the company, what's your initial capital, how's your office, where is your office located, how the location, the address. It's all gonna add to your credibility, which in turn is gonna help your business, your relationship with the bank, and your relationship with other business persons in Japan.
What about after all that and buying a house? Like what can people expect? So like I don't know what budget to have. Like it's $50,000. I guess let's use dollars. Like is that enough? Like should people expect to save up to $100,000? Like, what do you think is a good amount to get started?
To start, I think even let's say $50,000. Okay, I think is I wouldn't say it's the minimum, but it's a good amount.
Because it's not about just the first deal, right? The more you have, the faster you can get to the second deal, obviously, or even the third deal, or a bigger deal like yourself, an apartment. So, I think saving is crucial. I think a lot of people want to get started in real estate with zero or no money down, but you're paying that debt somehow. Like you might not be paying it with the down payment, but you're definitely borrowing that equity, borrowing that money somehow, and you have to work for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people miss, I think. And I think you've, off camera earlier, we were talking about, your strength is how much you can save, and that's such an important quality to have, in my opinion, to have a successful real estate business. What other things do you think foreigners interested in investing in Japan need to know?
So there is a lot of, not a lot, there are some information related to Japanese real estate online, YouTube and all those social channels. You really need to do a lot of self-research. In my case, I wasn't totally satisfied by the amount of information I could find in English. And actually spending time checking Japanese website or Japanese videos was really useful. And I cannot read Japanese, so it takes time, but it's worth. So things like watching real estate video in Japanese, they're up to date. The good thing about Japanese videos is that they are well structured, right? So there is always a page with a summary, or okay, these are the 10 points. So I basically take that picture, put it on Google Translate, and I get a translation. I mean, I can speak a bit of Japanese, so I do have a bit of an advantage there, but it's still a very lengthy process, but I found it way more useful than listening to some TikTokers talking about free houses in Japan.
Yeah.
So that's an advice I would give to get good information about real estate in Japan.
Okay, nice. Maybe you were talking about my TikTok account. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I do watch some videos done by Japanese investors. It's really, because they go niche and deep as well, and obviously I can understand Japanese, and learning from the locals here, I found a lot of value, because they've been doing that for a lot more years in this country than myself, and yeah, I think that's a really great tip that I haven't really discussed on my channel. So I have Ben and YY Yang here, coming from Singapore.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
Welcome to Japan.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so you two just got here in Japan this morning. When's the last time you were here?
It was in July, right?
July this year.
We brought our in-laws, my in-laws, her parents, to
Okay.
Japan for holiday.
I wanted to ask, so you're real estate investors in Singapore. How many properties do you have now?
We've just closed our 6th property in Singapore. Yeah, so we are looking to do our 7th in Japan.
Wow, aren't properties really expensive in Singapore?
Yes, comparatively to the rest of the country, especially Southeast Asia, but still it's one of the best market that you can invest in.
Yeah. Well, that's impressive. 6 in Singapore. If Singapore is one of the best markets for real estate investing, why are you looking into investing in Japan?
Well, I guess one of the biggest draw for us in Japan is that we don't get to experience 4 seasons. Yeah, so in Singapore it's summer all year round, and when we came to Japan, we fell in love with Japan. We love how clean and pristine the historical, stories that you guys have over here, and of course, the culture is just awesome. So this is a country that we really feel that we can spend a lot of time here.
Yeah,
And
like many Singaporeans, I think most of us like to travel to Japan. It's one of our top destinations for holidays. So, like any other Singaporeans, I think it's a good place that we want to travel to and spend, like he said, spend a long time here.
Yeah,
and we can foresee ourselves spending quite some time in Japan.
So, what kind of investments are you looking into? Short-term rentals, long-term rentals, or your holiday homes, or what is your strategy?
the first point where we really want to achieve is to have a second home in Japan.
Okay.
Yeah, and to help us realize that dream, then we were thinking, why not build upon that as a portfolio? So maybe multiple long-term rentals, and from there, if we have exposure to short-term rentals, we will want to explore that as well. And at the end of the day, it can fit towards the second home that we want in Japan. So that's kind of what we are planning out for the next immediate 5 years.
And as you know, population in Japan is rapidly decreasing. So a lot of people, investors, are kind of afraid of investing in Japan because of that reason. What do you say to that?
For us, property investing is not a blanket thing. So it doesn't mean that because there's one particular negative point, it means that you cannot invest in it or you can't be in the market. So there's a lot of things that can be looked upon, which can be positive. So for example, now we are in Kawagoe, which is very near Tokyo, and Tokyo's population is growing. And job opportunities over here, people are looking for places to be near Tokyo. So this is the reason why we are here, to look out for properties that we can buy as well. So there's so many reasons where properties in Japan can still be bought and can be utilized and leveraged on. So we are saying that even if the bigger picture may not sound very pleasing to other people in other countries, but to us we see the diamond in the rough.
Awesome. So you say you're looking into buying your first one, hopefully during this visit. But what's your big vision? How many properties do you want to have in Japan?
So the interesting thing is we just went for one of the property viewings, right? So it's an Akiya. Very obvious, it's been abandoned for some time. And we spoke to the person that's going to help us do the renovation if we decide to go with that deal. And he says that he have 110 properties right now in 7 years that he's been into this. So we want to beat that.
200.
200.
200 in 7 years.
In 7 years. All right. Okay. Just recorded it. Let's see how. We'll come back in 7 years and interview you again to see how big your portfolio is. But what do you want to say to other investors, maybe in Singapore or outside of Japan, who are looking into maybe investing in Japan?
Well, I would say most importantly, you need to know where is your passion or what keeps you obsessed. So for us, it's really about the Japan's culture and the historical, the history that they have over here that really keeps us wanting to come back. So we see ourselves we're spending a lot of time in Japan. So if you really want to be in Japan because this place values at you, then I would say go for it. But if you're just looking for the numbers, we may want to be very careful with that. So it has to be win-win for everyone.
And I think you should be clear of what you want to achieve and where are your limits or budget, things like that to consider. Yeah, so that you'll be able to really purchase something that suits you really well.
Awesome. Is there anything else I should ask you during this interview?
Is there any declaration you want to make besides your 200 properties?
Join us in Japan.
Join them in Japan. So I just got to Yamato in Kanagawa Prefecture. It's about an hour outside of Tokyo on the train, and we're here to view some cheap houses in this area. All right. Let's see what we'll find.
The first house we looked at was renovated a few months ago. It's a 3 LDK or 3-bedroom single family house with space to park 1 car. There's only 1 bathroom, but it looks very nice. It's a 7-minute walk from the nearest station and a 4-minute walk from a 7-Eleven. The asking price was 26.8 million yen or $182,000. Almost looks brand new after the renovation. But the day after we saw this property, the listing was gone, so it looks like it went under contract already. The second house we looked at was built in 1993 but was recently renovated. It's a 3 LDK or 3 bedroom single family house with space to park 1 car. This house has 1.5 bathrooms and a tatami room. It's a 16-minute walk from the nearest station and a 4-minute walk from a 7-Eleven. The asking price is 25.8 million yen or $176,000. It almost looks brand new after the renovation. And this is the final house we looked at. This house was built in 2004 but just got renovated in November. It's a 3 LDK or 3 bedroom house with 1.5 bathrooms. It's a 6-minute walk from the nearest grocery store and a 7-minute walk from a convenience store. The asking price is 26 million yen or $177,000. It almost looks brand new after the renovation, but the 2 days after we walked through this property, the listing was gone. So it looks like the house went under contract already. 2 of the properties we looked at went under contract like that. Good deals don't last, so you gotta act quickly.
So Jason, you just moved to Japan recently from the US. So tell me your story. Why did you move to Japan, and what are your plans in Japan?
I'm originally from Rhode Island in America. I came to Japan for work originally. I spent 7 years here. I fell in love with the culture, the food, and the people themselves. I find that people go out of their way to help you. No matter how much you can speak Japanese, it helps, of course, to speak Japanese. The food's amazing.
So how long have you been here now?
A total, this will be my 8th year. I'll be here for a couple more years at least. I do plan long term to live in Japan, at least for the near future. I just want to settle down here. It's a little different feeling than America. We worry about different things in different countries. I think this fits my personality the best.
Okay, so total 8 years, and for this time you recently moved, I guess, back to Japan.
Recently moved back 1 month ago. I took like a 2-year break from Japan, came back, excited to see how it is post-COVID.
And instead of just renting, you're looking into buying a home right now.
That is correct. I saw 4 houses today. I put an offer in on 1, and hopefully it gets accepted.
Awesome. Wow. So you're just taking action for home ownership in Japan. What made you want to pursue buying a home in Japan?
It's a lot of factors. If I could name a couple off the top of my head, the expensive real estate market where I came from. I just came from California. I can't afford that. Japan housing fits my budget. You also get a lot more for your dollar, I would say, especially if you earn in US dollar, which I do right now. So my dollar goes farther. The cost of living in Japan is cheaper.
Awesome. So just to paint the picture, how much does an average house cost in California where you are?
In California, first I'll say I just had a 1-bedroom apartment where my living room was literally inside my kitchen, and it was $2,600 a month, not even in a good city. Average house in California is at least $600,000, $700,000.
And you say you saw 4 houses here. Describe where we are now. Like how far is it from like a famous city like Tokyo? And how much were the houses that you looked at today?
The houses we looked at were about 30 minutes from Yokohama and about 1 hour from Tokyo. Shibuya, Shinjuku area. Trying to do the calculation in my head for the US dollar. I think it's around 150,000. Does that sound right? It's around 20 million yen. Whatever that translates to today.
Yeah, and then could you describe like the conditions of the houses that you saw? Like how big were they compared to what you're used to in San Diego?
They're about the same size as San Diego houses, roughly between 70 and 90 square meters. The conditions, all the ones I saw were refurbished or renovated. The renovations we saw today look just like the pictures that I saw online. Everything was clean, sharp.
I mean, obviously the location, San Diego, is one of the most expensive cities in the U.S., but still, same kind of house conditions, a quarter of the price of what you would pay in San Diego, the places that you saw. So it sounds like a really good deal then.
Correct, yeah. If you compare the houses, pretty much the same, except one's Japanese style, one's American style. The biggest difference is less than half the price.
I'm excited for you. Hopefully the application gets accepted and you can move forward to closing and you own your first home in Japan.
I'm very excited and I hope you're right.
What's after that? Do you want to continue maybe pursuing investing in Japan, or what are your plans?
Absolutely. Hopefully the market stays down. Nobody rush to Japan. Everyone stay where you are. That way the houses stay low and I can build up my bank account and continue to buy more properties. It's actually just a fun process, trying to find one, trying to find a good deal, and executing. It's just a fun process.
What would you say to your fellow Americans who feel stuck in the housing crisis in the U.S., where everything, but especially houses are so expensive, but they're interested in possibly buying somewhere else?
Not financial advice first. I would say if you can't make it to Japan, not everyone can. Live within your means. Don't expect a large house if the rates stay 8% and you can't afford it. But if you have the opportunity to look elsewhere, you could speak another language, you want to learn another language, you just really love a different culture. The biggest positive in my life has been traveling, so I wouldn't have known about that I even want to live in Japan if I never traveled. So at least get outside of America. If you just come here and experience it, just walk through the train station, you'll feel how everyone's just so helpful.
I hope you enjoyed these interviews, and if you did, let me know in the comments below. And before we end, I have an announcement. We're hosting a free live training session on how to buy your first house in Japan in just 90 days on January 4th. We will share the exact steps we use to buy a property in Japan. So be sure to save your seat by registering today. The link is below. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and watch this video next for more, and see you in the next one.